All right, good afternoon or good morning, perhaps good evening, depending what part of the world you're in. As my Discord servers always say, happy time zone wherever you are. My name is Nick Don Stanton Rourke. I am the current Hyku product owner, and together Rob Kaufman, the Hyku tech lead, and I will be sharing a few updates from the AI Working Group. A brief agenda for our updates today. We'll be going over these five points or questions. Why an AI working group was established, a little bit of information about how AI is functioning in the broader repository landscape. Then I'll be handing it over to Rob for a proof of concept live demo of a tool that he has put together. We'll be talking about our provisional approach to integrating AI into or alongside Hyku or Samvera products like Hyku and Hyrax. And then we'll talk about next steps for our working group. Sorry, there's our agenda. So why AI and why now? AI is obviously, calling it trendy would be an understatement. AI is just about everywhere at this point, and far from that being a justification, I think that actually requires us to justify why we would want to use it. And so here are some of the reasons. AI is reshaping repository work. There is institutional pressure and market momentum, and that provides an opportunity for us. The immediate catalyst for us putting this together was JSTOR's announcement of a repository service or a repository-like service that they call digital stewardship, which marries their digital asset management environment with SQLite, an AI engine for both metadata generation and collection insights. Because JSTOR already has deep credibility with library leadership and funders, this announcement landed really powerfully this year, promising both efficiency and cost savings for institutions. And we were already seeing multiple Hyku using institutions were making moves to get off of Hyku in favor of JSTOR's repository product, specifically because of the AI metadata generation capabilities. Even in cases where this would be a short-term increase in expense for them, they saw it as a long-term cost savings. And coming from administration, you can imagine where some of that cost savings comes from. I won't say that this caused panic, but it did highlight a need within Samvera for a credible, values-aligned response that embraces innovation, but also keeps human oversight and open standards at the center of the work. And upon study, the JSTOR model, how they're approaching this, also reveals some pitfalls that we want to avoid. JSTOR built a custom closed branch of AI development. They took a model and then they trained it specifically for their metadata generation use case. And the product that they've launched is already lagging behind some of the broader pace of generative AI innovation, which is very quick moving. And more philosophically, more foundationally, its methods are opaque. It's not fully open. It's a proprietary model, and you can't get full information about the model, and it uses hidden prompts. So even if you are using it as a metadata librarian, the prompts that generated the metadata are opaque to you. And so that prevents community review, that prevents improvement, right? So that's our opportunity. In contrast, we can be fully open where they're closed. And so our goal is to use transparent models to publish our prompts and our evaluation data, to keep the product entirely open, and to invite shared governance, keeping our solutions sustainable and trustworthy. So the working group so far, the working group was established in July, August of 2025. It is a very nascent group, mostly asynchronous communication so far. Meetings have not comprised the full group, but have been sort of individuals within the group. We are deliberately targeting a wide variety of coverage for the membership. So we want developers, librarians, archivists, consortial representatives, and vendors all to have input into this. And we have at least one membership commit from a small institutional library, large institutional library, senior tech within Hyku high racks, from the vendor space and from the consortial space. So it's important to us to have that wide variety of inputs into the work that we're doing. Our deliverables are structured by quarter. We want to have early reports on the market, technical feasibility, which we've already been looking into. We want to have implementation guidelines and prototypes, and then finally a roadmap recommending community adoption paths for what we come up with. One measure of success that we've identified, this is provisional, but seeing our prototypes adopted for testing by at least 2 Samvera partner institutions, producing documented gains in search relevance or cataloging efficiency, and achieving consensus on priority AI integration areas. Here's a quick look at our provisional charter, open to amendment as we go forward. Our guiding focus is stewardship. AI can assist description, but descriptive authority has to remain human. We envision a fully open source code, clear provenance for every AI-assisted action, and open documentation of all the methods used, and we are exploring options for labeling AI-generated metadata for the end user. And with that, I will hand it to Rob for a quick look at what the workflow actually feels like. So I will stop sharing.
All right. This should be pretty quick and simple. You see a screen that says documents on it?
Yes.
Great. So in order to, I know Nick said people weren't panicking. I felt like people were panicking. In order to sort of show where the state of the space is and to get an understanding of what it might look like to build something um, in this, that does this work, I put together a quick proof of concept. I want to be really clear here. This is a brand new Rails app that I built on a Thursday. I started at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I worked on it for 4 or 5 hours. I gave a presentation about it at the San Diego Ruby user group. And then we collaboratively fixed the bugs that we found in it. And got it working that evening. So this has not been a tremendous amount of work so far. This is mostly just a proof of concept, but it does work. So what we're going to show is we're going to pick a file with Rails file upload. I like this particular cat. I'm going to put my name in here. You'll note that we're not filling any of these things in. We're going to say create document. And we're going to refresh this page a couple times while the background job runs. There, it's done. Okay, it came up with this description. The LLM came up with this description. It says this is a cat hanging from a branch. It says hang in there. It figured out the author. It gave us some keywords. And if we go look at the original image, let's go here, pictures, in there. This is one of my example images that I use all the time. And we can see that it very much is a kitten hanging from a tree branch. It says hang in there. The authorship came from this text being read from the image. If we look in the inspector here, we will see that this image contains no metadata. So there's nothing for it to have read here as far as like authorship or any of those things. So it didn't get any of this by just reading the metadata in the image. So there's one example. We can go back and we can grab, let's see here, an invoice and do it with that. Run in the background. Oh, there's no job in the queue. What happened? No, that's what happens when you live demo. Oh, there it went. Okay, so it's processing that one. We can see I uploaded a resume. I just uploaded a Word doc here. And this one has the description. It pulls out the author as being who the resume is about. It figured out some reasonable tags based on their resume. Um, we can see here's an invoice I did previously. Again, I just uploaded a PDF that I downloaded off the internet or out of my email. And we see that this is the invoice. It breaks out the period. So it'll do a lot of parsing. So let's talk about how this is backed very, very briefly, and then I'll turn things back over to Nick. So we're using a library called Ruby LLM. And essentially, we include Ruby LLM into our code base. We then generate using a generator, which makes a few objects, including a chat object and a document object. Um, and then our background job do, 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 just runs this extractor, and this extractor has our prompts. This is our base prompt. It says things like, you're a metadata extraction assistant. You will always use this one format. Here are some guidelines about what we want to look like. And then the actual user prompt, when we run an individual query, says, hey, don't forget to put things in JSON without any markdown around them, because otherwise it adds markdown strings all the time. We used Claude Sonnet 4 for the examples I showed you today. It is trivial to swap this model to a ChatGPT model. It is trivial to swap this model to an Olama based model, so you can run a local model here. There are quite a few. I would say probably over 100 model options that you can pick all through Ruby LLM. So this gives us a ton of flexibility and transparency around those pieces. And then the other thing is all of the interactions with the LLM are recorded in the database so that we can track them. And I don't have any interface for it, but we are also tracking right now which fields are generated versus not generated so that it's clear to see, like we could easily label these as, which ones were generated and whether they've been reviewed or not. So that's kind of where we're at as the state of things. And I will turn things now back over to Nick.
All right, thank you for that. And so I think a few takeaways from that is that the technical feasibility is not the complicated part at this point. The technical feasibility is there. Um, people worry about hallucinations with AI. Hallucinations emerge when you have a really broad context window. So when you're using AI for like general information retrieval or as a search engine, then you have these really broad contexts. The models continue to improve and they are working against hallucination. But also when you have a very narrow, very specific context window for it, like look at this document and tell me what it's about, find keywords in this document, hallucination problems tend to minimize. And then, of course, you have human review, human reviewers on top of that. We've also built some wireframes for what a UI would look like, all very provisional at this point. So let's talk a little bit about our provisional approach. And this is provisional because the AI working group is really just about to start with a regular meeting cadence and really put flesh to all of this. But provisionally, what we picture is something that is not integrated directly within the Hyku app or the Hyrax app or within the code stack, but is a standalone product that is pointed toward Hyku so that or Hyrax so that it's useful if you want it, and there are no dependencies built in if we don't want it, or in case the AI landscape changes, right? All very up in the air right now. So we're picturing a standalone product, something not integrated. We're not going to force a co-pilot into your dashboard with you or anything like that as far as we're picturing this now, but something that is standalone, and flexible metadata actually helps a lot with this because flexible metadata surfaces your metadata profile spec, your M3 spec, in a really easy way. And so that we can build that into the UI as you give your zip folder or your zip file with the items that you want described for an initial generated metadata generation together with the M3 spec of your specific tenant, and then get the information back in a CSV that's already structured for import through bulk racks. That's the kind of thing that we're picturing. And then build in a cost recovery mechanism at that point for something that is, tailored specifically for our use cases within Samvera, but actually has a really wide application. There are a lot of different reasons that you might use this for metadata generation. And um, kind of surprisingly, there isn't already such a product on the market. So far, we have a technical proof of concept for the generator itself. We have provisional wireframes for a user interface. The really critical tasks for the working group are not in this technical area, but exploring the integration of AI, not the AI itself, but that whatever method and mechanism that we come up with, that it is ethical above all, fit for library use, and the metadata, or the AI working group needs to explore topics such as the user interface for such a generator, AI labeling for generated metadata, cost recovery for usage, other ethical considerations. So we're not quite at the question and discussion point yet, but I'd like to invite you to think about what responsible and ethical AI use would look like in your repository setting. What tasks and functions are ideally handed to AI for automation, and what tasks should never be handed to AI? And how do you structure a system and structure incentives to incentivize responsible use and disincentivize non-responsible use. Um, it really is a interesting set of challenges at this point. So the road ahead for the AI working group, our next steps are to complete our analysis of the overall market and architecture, to refine the proofs of concept that we have into a working pilot, to develop shared standards for ethical AI usage within Samvera applications. We do also have some community members in PALSI, part of the Hyku for Consortia project, who have applied for an AI development grant from OpenAI, and that we should be hearing about. We should be hearing back from them by the end of 2025, so we might have some development funding coming in from that and some supportive institutions within PALNI and PALSI. And most importantly, we will begin regular meetings of the AI working group shortly. So with that, I encourage you, if you are interested, if you want to join this conversation, to sign up to join the AI working group. Both that link and that QR code point to a Google form with just a little bit of information about you. All experience levels welcome. There's no need to be expert in programming, no need to be expert in AI. The library perspective, the archivist perspective is very important to anything that we offer. So soon we will have meetings on the Samvera community calendar, and we will announce that in the Slack channel. So if you're interested, sign up, and if you want to hear more, follow the Slack channel to see what our outputs are. So with that, we have a few minutes for questions and discussion.